that we actually move towards understanding the importance of this topic through an audio visual. So if I could request my technical team, if they could please kindly relay a small film made on the concept of this particular theme.
Biological warfare has been renounced by 140 nations. The threats posed by biological weapons are likely to continue into the future unless dealt with effectively by all nations in unison. Let us discuss 5 Ws of biological and chemical warfare at International Conference on Eradication of Biological and Chemical Weapons.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are audible. Go ahead,
Thank you. With this, I would now like to request the first eminent speaker of this particular session. If I may, before I do that, let me quickly share with all the dignitaries present here on the dais. Each one of you will have 15 minutes to share your thoughts, after which we are going to take questions from everyone in the audience. So let's keep a little more time for the questions and answers. So first, it is indeed my honor and privilege to invite to speak on this important occasion the eminent speaker of this session, Honorable Dr. A. Velumaniji, the creator of Thyrocare. But before I do that, it is my honor and privilege to introduce him to all of you today. My friends, a person who was born to a very poor parents in the small family of Udur near Coimbatore in year 1959. Today, he owns and operates Thyrocare, an industry leader and a household brand. He began as a mathematician and became a scientist with a PhD in thyroid biochemistry from BARC, Mumbai, and now the celebrated entrepreneur. He anchored at Navi Mumbai. He has employed 8,000 plus freshers and serves 10,000 cities and towns in 10 countries. His clinical laboratory services, doing 4 lakh tests every night. Dr. A. Velumani proves amply clarifies the industry that focus gives success. And it is really important for all of us to learn from his profile that what exactly one man can achieve in one life. It is really our honor and privilege to have you here today, sir. We all are keen to hear to you. Over to you.
Thank you, MIT. Thank you for considering me as a part of this very important panel discussion. I was a chemistry student, and I do understand how dangerous chemicals can be. I was in a nuclear program with Baba Atomic Research Center for 15 years. So I also understand how big a havoc any such accidents can create. And today I do a medical business, and now I understand what a biowar can be. So far, biowars were only imagined, and I am shocked. First time all living beings, as of today, are witnessing one of the sample of a biowar. I would not love to call it as biowar because I believe it is not made for it. I wish to believe it was an accidental, spread. But having said that, there are theories which says that it has been created for havoc. I don't want to believe it, but we have learned a few things from this COVID pandemic, which in fact might have made the organizers to think of this title and subject, because within a matter of 100 days, the 7.5 billion population are made to sit at home and see through their windows and balconies the rest of the world. Mightiest of the countries have suffered the worst. There is no, in Hindi a word is there, Dakkan. There is no Dakkan for this virus. it is going to keep transmitting itself restless. It doesn't sleep, no working hours, no weekends. That is the power of that virus, which is probably, in chemistry, you can call it as 1/1,000,000th of a gram. So little is the virus. And that put all this probably hundreds of thousands of aircrafts grounded, hundreds of thousands of trains halted, and no bus travel. We can't imagine suddenly we are witnessing something like this. So that says this is a simulation of, in fact, it's not a simulation. I used to think a bio-war can happen in one desert, in one corner of the world. Somebody can be notorious. So let us look at this 5W angle. What do we now visualize bio-war as in the background of what we have experienced in this last 200 days? Let me give a bit brief about this COVID because I am directly involved in COVID testing. We have completed a 60,000 COVID testing in a short span of 90 days. Single largest private testing laboratory in Navi Mumbai. It's too sad to see every morning we are reporting out of 2,000 samples, 1,000 positive. And that itself puts burden on the city and the beds available, the oxygenated beds available, the ventilators available. Oh God, it's a havoc. Having said that, let me also give to the audience some amount of confidence, because a pretty big population is getting traumatized by the televisions which are looking for TRP, talking too terrorizing terminologies are used. Let us look at from the positive side of our brain, because jo dar gaya, wo mar gaya. It is important. If marna hi to, we will one day die. Why should we die every day? So I want this audience to understand. The one who wants to increase the TRP will look at the number of infected, and daily they will tell 15,000 infected, 20,000 infected, more every day. Our country is 1.4 billions, and these 1.4 billions, the number told is too little looking at the size of the country. Of course, infected are more, but death is less in this country. So there is a terminology called deaths per million. And let us look at what is rich cousins and poor cousins are about. Let us call it as Asian big countries like India, Pakistan, Indonesia, including China. But China, we are not including in this because China hardly talks truth about numbers. So the Western cousins, which are European countries, UK and US, all of them put together, mean death per million is 400. And India death per million is only crossing 7 or 8. I use this number only to give some kind of confidence for people that it is not all that bad. And the number of people in India, if today is 7 per million, it will not stop here. It will go up, but it will not go to 400 deaths per million. Certainly, it will go to 40 deaths per million. So what makes Western world 400 deaths per million and what makes India 40 deaths per million is India is an young country. The mean age of India is 28 and mean age of the Western cousins is 48. So I am of that opinion. We are blessed with Yuva Bharat, young India, and our death burden is less because we are young. Number two, we were born in hygienic conditions which are questionable for living. So is our infant mortality is too high. That means our bachpana, our youth, our early years, 5 years, first 5 years, most of India has suffered high infant mortality, which means we have seen higher number of pathogens. That means we have higher level of immunity. That means we are safe with this virus relatively. Other than that, India is a tuberculosis bed, and BCG vaccination also has been extensively done. The Western cousins did not go for a BCG vaccination, thinking that only poor cousins have to go for it. And also is malaria. So if you look at it, whether malaria, whether chloroquine, whether BCG, whether tuberculosis, whether immunity because of living conditions, or it is the age, we don't know, all could be also contributing, that in this supposed to be a very big calamity, we have relatively escaped. Having said that, we have a very poor medical infrastructure. Had we gone to 400 deaths per million with Indian medical infrastructure, we would have lost another 400 because of not caring for individuals. So government, it's the right time to focus on medical infrastructure, number of beds, number of beds with oxygen, number of beds with ventilator is supposed to be focused. And depriving a man in his last couple of days oxygen is supposed to be the biggest crime done by any administration or any living being who will live after he dies. So to that extent, oxygen has become important. So this is what I call as the suffering today we have. Let me also tell you, those who have high immunity, 90% of the population will not know whether they are infected or not, because their body has an ability to withstand without symptoms. In the remaining 90% are infected, but they don't have to go to the hospital, but their body offers immunity so that they can escape. In the remaining 90%, go to the hospital and come back because they have been supported by the medical system. Only the left out is going to die. It is 1 among 10,000 or so. So be little more relaxed. People with high immunity live. People with average immunity get infected, but they survive. People with low immunity go to the hospital and come out, and people with no immunity will not be able to survive. Immunity plays a very big role in biowars, because biowars are organisms, and the organisms can, if the body can handle it, it has handled it. Can every viral, every bioorganism be handled by body? We don't know. This virus attacks lungs. This virus sits in lungs, eats lungs, and makes sure you are deprived of oxygen. So it is not going to kidney, liver, it's not going to the other body parts. You can find some kind of virus which could even be getting straight to the heart and create in 24 hours any kind of damage. I'm not scaring, I'm only looking at the possibilities of what is biowar can be. So what is important in biowars? Is it transmitting? If yes, how it is transmitting? China made a wrong statement for the first 1 month that it is not people-to-people transmission. Otherwise, completely it could have been isolated. Today, the entire world has received it because all aircrafts with 10 passengers each, with all lungs filled with the virus, has reached to all international airports. So that's the biggest mistake. So transmission, people-to-people transmission is the biggest worry. Rest of the transmissions can be fairly well managed. Second one is virulence. Virulence is how fast it grows. The replication, how fast. Some of them can replicate once in 2 days. Some of them can replicate even once in 2 seconds. So the speed at which, that's known as virulence, that can be devastating. The next one is toxicity. As I said, which organ it can attack and how fast it can collapse that organ. How vital is that organ to the body? Is that organ replaceable? So all these things will decide how severe is this war. Of course, death, if it can make people ill and spare, it's a different solution, it's a different challenge. If it is leading to death, it is another big challenge. So where it can happen? Obviously, it can be local. Somebody can get angry on one small country in one part of Europe where there is 1 or 2 million population and they can attack. It can be regional and it can be global. What is now happening with COVID is global. It is not local. It is not regional. So who can create it? Any bad man, bad scientist can create it. It doesn't need a too big an infrastructure. It needs a couple of nucleotides and the nucleotide sequences and to tweak the existing one and make it more dangerous and make it to do what you want it to do. So a bad man can do, a bad terrorist outfit can do, a bad rogue country also can do. So these are all the people who can do it. When can it happen? Any time it can happen, because we don't know when a man gets mad, when an organization gets mad. So anytime, it's a very high risk with the today's total volatility between countries and their superpower. China threatening America, America threatening China, terrorist countries threatening neighbors. All these things are high risk, and we don't know when. Be prepared forever. Why? What is this? What is that man wants? Man has unnecessarily too much of greed. And this greed is going to be dangerous. Countries are becoming greed. Society is becoming greed. Aggression. People think I am the superpower, I can prove it. Animosity, which is not necessary for a human being. We must consider all human beings are equal. All living beings are equal. Why only human beings? So, I have a limited time. I can keep talking for hours.
Yeah, but
this COVID has taught us a sample of what biowar can be. Thank you very much, MIT, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your words of wisdom. And it is indeed very important for us, all of us, to understand from a person like you what exactly it means. And thank you very much. Inherently, I would like to say thank you very much for sticking to your time. Because sometimes that becomes very difficult for me to control. So thank you very much for that. Next, we have on panel the next eminent speaker of this session, Honorable Colonel Dr. Ram Athavale. And before I invite him, it is my indeed honor and privilege to introduce him to all of you. Colonel Dr. Ram Athavale is an 81 batch veteran cavalier and an alumni of Defense Services Staff College, Defense Institute of Advanced Technology, College of Military Engineering, and Army War College. Colonel Athavale is a specialist in chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear, which is called CBRN, security, risk mitigation, and incident management, with more than 2 decades of experience. By being a qualified tank technologist, he holds an MSc in Defense and Strategic Studies, a certificate in disaster management, a fellowship in CBRN disaster management, a postgraduate diploma in business administration HR, and a PhD for his doctoral research in CBRN terrorism and its crisis and consequences management in India. It is indeed our privilege and honor to have you here today, sir. And of course, you are one of the most important person to talk on this topic. And it is now time that I request you to kindly address the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Can you get my screen on the... Yeah, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Respected General Shekatkar, sir, Dr. Velumani, sir, Dr. Shalashri Haridas, ma'am, learned audience. It is indeed an honor for me to have been invited, and my sincere thanks to the organizers, Dr. Rahul Karad and the MIT World Peace University and the complete team who's organizing this particular conference on a very, very important subject, which is very relevant today, especially in view of the COVID-19 which is going on. I would be talking to you on basics of biological and chemical weapons and warfare. And I should also be highlighting in the end as to what should be India's structure to go about, or what should be India's way forward to actually deal with such kind of threats. So I hope I am able to cover in the given time frame. I will now like to share my screen and run through my small presentation. Is my screen visible?
It's visible, so you can go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Right. So before I actually take on the subject, I would like to just highlight a couple of terms and symbols because I found that it is important to know these things, having seen some very odd issues about these terms and symbols. So I will just quickly run through this. The term CBRN stands for chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. till about 1980, it was termed as NBC, nuclear, biological, and chemical. The term radiological had not come in till then. Then in the 1980s, during the invasion of Iraq by the Allied forces and all that, it became the WMB, the weapons of mass destruction, which essentially includes chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons. 2001, that is 9/11 onwards, the term got a different turn with the radiological getting added on, and it became chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. And that's how it is understood today world over. This is the common term which is understood in all the global meets and circles on this particular type of threat. As far as the civil industrial area is concerned, they also call it hazmat or hazardous material, or at sometimes they call it dangerous material. These are the four symbols for chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear threats. Why I'm showing you these symbols is very important to understand that these are hazard symbols, and these are not to be played around with. These are, when you see this kind of a symbol, it means there is this kind of a hazard existing. So don't go around using this symbol in the manner which you see on this slide, that a bus has been decorated with the biohazard symbol. Obviously, the person doesn't know what it stands for. Something nice and curvaceous, good symbol to decorate the bus with. There's a photograph taken by me while going to office in Nairobi, Kenya, when I was deployed there, part of the EU CBRN Centers of Excellence program. And this bus was passing by, and I was shocked to see this whole bus decorated with this kind of a symbol. So that's why I thought I'll just clarify that these are hazard symbols and should be treated as such. Right, coming to the topic per se now. Chemical and biological threats are either natural or man-made. What we are seeing today is part of the natural. If you see underneath, it is disease outbreaks. So this is what COVID-19 is happening as of now. But you also have man-made threats, which could be accidental in the terms which have been listed out, or it could be deliberate. So when I'm talking of deliberate, I'm talking of using these chemicals or bioagents as weapon systems. They could be state use or as CBRN terrorism. Now, these are the two areas where the threat actually exists, where such kind of things can go out of hand, deliberately done to cause maximum casualties. But you must always remember that when a person or an agency or an organization is trying to use these chemical or biological agents for such kind of deliberate activities, the input material is actually coming from these areas. It could be the logistics, it could be research laboratories, it could be industries, and it could be waste and effluents. So therefore, our emphasis on security of these areas will ensure that such kind of things will not happen on the right-hand side, that is the deliberate part. After having seen this threat, let us first see what are chemical threats. Chemical weapons are primarily poisonous chemical compounds made from simple chemicals used in a malicious or an offensive manner. As far as military grade or warfare grade chemical weapons are concerned, they are classified in four parts, that is blister agents, choking agents, blood agents, and nerve agents. The effect that it has on a person is as the name suggests. There are, of course, some other agents called incapacitating agents, which are used normally by law enforcement agencies. Riot control agents, mental incapacitators, tear gas, smoke. And lastly, we have toxic industrial chemicals. These are commonly used chemicals. I shall be touching upon these a little later as to how these can be dangerous. Chemical warfare in history. I have started the slide from 428 BC. Maybe we can go further down in history. But the actual mass use of chemical agents in warfare was done by the Germans in World War I. You can see here on the slide 650 tons, and these are official reports, of course, of chemicals were used, mostly chlorine and mustard gas. There was also use of these chemicals, mustard gas and sarin. What sarin is, I will explain. It is a nerve agent. What affects your nervous system. Now, this sarin and mustard gas, which is a blister agent, which causes blisters, was used by Saddam Hussein against the Kurds in the Gulf War. Nowadays, in the last couple of years, we have seen the use of chlorine and sarin both extensively being used in the Syrian war. Which side is using it, whether it is the rebels or whether it is the government forces. There's a lot of confusion about that. But suffices to say that it is causing huge amount of casualties and deaths in a very gory manner, and therefore they need to be stopped. I was talking about toxic industrial chemicals. Toxic industrial chemicals are commonly used chemicals which are used in tons and tons in our industrial areas. If you see the high hazard toxic industrial chemicals, you'll find ammonia, chlorine, formaldehyde. These are things which are used in tons. So these toxic chemicals are available off the shelf in bulk. How you use them, what restrictions are there, how much of safety is managed is where the problem lies. I've also listed in the central column methyl isocyanate, which was actually the chemical which caused the Bhopal gas tragedy of 1984. But since then, we should have learned our lessons. But I seriously have doubts whether we have learned all our lessons in the correct manner. Because we have seen so many recent incidents, including the one on the left bottom, which you see styrene gas leak at LG Polymers Vizag. It's actually a lot of issues which have gone wrong in that system. Starting from the safety mechanism, starting from checks and balances, starting from keeping the inventory of chemicals or looking after the equipment's functionality and so on and so forth. A lot of SOPs got violated. So there are a number of such issues which keep happening, and we are having these cases time and again. So we need to start ensuring that we don't go wrong and start taking stock of this situation. You mentioned the Chemical Weapons Convention in the beginning. Ma'am had mentioned in her small address in the beginning. Chemical Weapons Convention is a global convention under the United Nations organization. It was signed by the countries mostly. It got opened for signatures in 1993 and it got ratified actually in 1997. India has been a signatory of this convention right since beginning. This convention is being managed by an organization called the Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, which is based in The Hague in Netherlands. It's doing a yeoman service, and it is the one which has actually helped countries get rid of their chemical or toxic chemical stockpiles, which could be used as chemical agents or chemical weapons. And therefore, they were awarded with the Nobel Peace Prize in 2013. India had chemical weapons when we actually signed this particular convention, and we were obliged to destroy the weapons. We destroyed the chemicals, destroyed the manufacturing facility, storage facility, and so on, which we have been able to do by March 2009, before our target date of April 2009. Coming to biological threats. Now, all microorganisms which cause disease in man, plants, and animals are biological agents. That is what is called an agent. Now, when you use these agents in a very offensive kind of a manner, it becomes biological warfare. All kinds of bacteria, rictia, virus, fungi, and even toxins can be used as biological weapons. Biological warfare in history. Again, biological warfare, I can even go back down to Mahabharata, where you have heard of poison-tipped arrows and poisoning of wells and throwing people across the, in 1347, there were cases where plague victims were thrown across the walls of a fort to cause casualties inside the fort. And similar things have happened. In fact, if you see in Germany, used anthrax and glanders to poison horses, allied horses, which were being shipped from place A to place B. On the right top, you will see a photograph of a horse with a mask on it. The biggest use of biological weapons in warfare conditions was done by the Japanese in World War II, when they used plague, anthrax, cholera, and typhoid. Did a lot of research on prisoners of war, on Chinese population. Innocent Chinese people got targeted by these, and a huge amount of casualties occurred. Those of you who are keen on reading more on that can look up something called Unit 731 on the internet. It's mind you, unless you have a strong stomach, don't read this. Recent incidents, of course, there is the Madagascar plague in 2017. There was the swine flu in India and many parts of South Asia, which happened. we have seen the Ebola outbreak in DR Congo, which actually happened much earlier also, but from 2015 it is still ongoing. The problem there is the Boko Haram terrorist organization is preventing the medical relief people, including WHO teams, from responding to villages and bastis which have these cases. Of course, I will not talk of 2020 and 19 of COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Velmani has already spoken on that, and you're reading too much on the newspaper, so I will not cover this issue. Yes, it is a pandemic. It is a natural occurrence. It has happened across the world, and you can imagine from patient zero, which happened in Wuhan, hopefully, how much it has spread and how many deaths are taking place in the world. One single patient can cause that kind of a spread. You can imagine how dangerous biological weapons can be. Genetic engineering and biological weapons is another issue where you can change the nature of a biological agent to cause more casualties, to make it immune to the antibiotics and other medicines that you have, the vaccines that you already have. And that is very dangerous. And a lot of terrorist organizations are actually studying this particular aspect. India and the BTWC, India signed the BTWC when it opened for signatures in 1972. We have never had biological weapons in our inventory, and we will not be having them again or any time because we are signatories to this particular convention. Till very lately, the Biological Weapons Convention did not have a governing body or a managing body. But in the 6th conference of the Biological Weapons Convention, it was decided in 2006 that there should be a body, something like the OPCW for the chemical part of it. So they have what is called the Implementation Support Unit, which is at Geneva, which actually looks after the Biological Weapons Convention now. There are 183 state parties to this convention as of today. Suffices to say that in spite of all these conventions, a lot of countries are still working on research on biological and chemical weapons, primarily to develop antidotes, to develop vaccines, and to develop countermeasures in case they are threatened with such kind of things. India too has certain laboratories which are working in this particular aspect. What are the new threats that we are looking at? I mentioned to you about countries still continuing research, but there could be a lot of clandestine work which is going on biological warfare and chemical warfare. Programs may still be continuing well under the radar. And even though most countries have abided by these conventions for their own security.
I'm sorry to interrupt, sir, but we have many questions also. So I think we'll have to keep some time for the questions.
Okay, I just have 2 more slides, so there's not much on this. So this is the kind of threat. But quickly, I must tell you about a toxic terror, that is the terrorists using biological and chemical weapons. I have mentioned some examples here where actually terrorist organizations or non-state actors actually have used biological and chemical weapons in a large scale to cause casualties. Their capabilities are developing, their knowledge skills are improving, and they are no longer the uneducated brute force that is considered. They are now trained, skilled people, doctors, scientists who are part of these organizations. So we cannot negate that aspect that they will not be able to generate or produce or weaponize these agents in a good manner. We need to be very careful about that. Apart from that, a huge amount of vulnerabilities exist. I will not go into these details. You're seeing them in the newspapers every day as to what are the vulnerabilities which are increasing the cases in India and the world over. A lot of international initiatives have been taken to curb this problem. I mentioned to you about the EU CBRN action plan. I was part of this action plan as an expert working in Africa for 3 years. But the WHO, the Interpol, the UN, and the World Customs Organization, all of them are working in a synergetic manner to ensure or to ensure non-proliferation of these kind of weapon systems. So in the end, I would just like to cover these 10 points as to what should be the way forward for not only India, but for any country to actually curb this kind of a system. The first is to develop a national CBRN security strategy. Mind you, why I'm saying security strategy is because it should be viewed as a security concern and not as a health concern. It is towards national security that we should be working on, and therefore it should be backed up by an intelligence system. We have about 100 plus laws in India which all contribute towards CBRN related issues. But there may be a scope for revision of these laws. Enforcement and oversight. and first response capability needs to be developed. Dr. Velumani has already mentioned on the national health security system. We are woefully short of that. But I would like to highlight 2 points before I close. The first is domestic CBRN industry. It exists. We are producing world-class systems. It existed before COVID-19 came up, but it was latent. We need to nurture this and expand this. And the second is research and studies on CBRN subjects. We have not got any university in India which runs courses on CBRN. I am a visiting faculty to an university in Rome where they have a master's course in CBRN protection. See the amount of emphasis they are giving on that. And therefore, we need to build that capability in India, maybe start a center of excellence. So thank you very much, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your words of wisdom. Thank you very much for that presentation that actually gave us the visual understanding of the very, very sensitive and important topic. Thank you very much for that. Now it's time when I move on to the next eminent speaker. And when I say eminent speaker, this time, I mean, seriously, if I have to introduce Honorable Lieutenant General Dr. D.B. Shekatkarji, I mean, I'll probably have to arrange another session just to introduce him. And it is indeed our honor and privilege that we have him here today. I would now take this honor and privilege to introduce him to all of you. Honorable Lieutenant General Dr. D.B. Shekatkar, PVSM, AVSM, and VSM. His academic qualifications are BCom, MSc, MPhil in Defense Studies, PhD in Management Sciences, PhD in Defense and Strategic Studies, and he is pursuing his third PhD in Psychological Warfare, postgraduate diploma in Ecology and Environment, postgraduate diploma in Weapons and Equipment Management, and awarded Paul Harris Fellowship by Rotary International. His experience is probably so wide and rich that I mean, see, to find out points from it, it was a task for myself. He served in the Indian Army for 4 decades and participated in India-Pakistan War in 1965 in Kashmir, in 1971 in Western Theatre. During Kargil War in 1999, he was in charge of the entire China front in Arunachal Pradesh. He was in charge of border management with China and Arunachal Pradesh, Myanmar, Bhutan, and part of border with Bangladesh. He served extensively in Northeast, combining insurgencies in Assam, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, and other areas. He served in Blue Star operation in Punjab and later combated terrorism as the brigadier in Punjab, as Major General in Kashmir, and as Lieutenant General in Assam and other parts of northeastern India. For his dedication, devotion, and contribution to the national cause, he has received many, many awards and medals. He has received the Vishishta Seva Medal in 1981, Ati Vishishta Seva Medal in 1997, Param Vishishta Seva Medal in year 2002 from the hands of Honorable President of India. Sir, it is indeed our honor and privilege to have you here, and we all are keen to hear your views. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. I feel honored, indeed, to be amongst you and speak to a wonderful audience. I am totally aware of my incapability and capacity both. I am not a trained scientist, but we have been fortunate enough to listen to the eminent scientist and thereafter Dr. Ramat Hole, who have given us all the details which are required for a person who should be concerned about this new emerging threat in the terms of nuclear, biological, chemical warfare. I'm also aware of the fact that a large audience this evening is amongst our students, young people. With your permission, if I am allowed to use few words of Hindi during my interaction, I hope it will not be taken amiss. Unfortunately, today in India, if you speak Hindi, वो बोलते इसको अकल नहीं है, ये बुद्धिमान आदमी नहीं है, ये हिंदी में बात करता है. But today, look at the people who are suffering throughout the world are not the English-speaking people. If you take the total data of the people who are suffering from the so-called COVID-19 or coronavirus, are not English people. English-speaking people. I will not go into details or technicality, but the fact remains today, if you destroy your enemy without firing a shot, without using a gun, without using a bomb, use unconventional methods. People talk today, sixth sense, super sense. In my philosophy of dealing with subject is use uncommon common sense. Unfortunately, in 21st century, it is in short supply. We are hesitant to use uncommon common sense. I'll just deal with it. When we are dealing with such subjects, it is always good to know there are four wheels of the chariot of knowledge. ज्ञान रूपी रथ के चार पहिए होते हैं और एक उसका सारथी होता है. Four wheels and the one person who drives the chariot. The wheels are, you mentioned what can happen or what has happened. Where has it happened? It will give us the indication where can it happen. When has that happened? It will give us the indication when can it happen. And why it had happened will give us the indication why it can happen. And the most important thing, how it had happened, and that will give us the indication how can it happen again. Based on whatever we discussed today, whatever we learned today, we have to prevent ourselves getting infected or affected by any of these threats. That is the important part. Because those students or the young generation who is listening to this transmission, you are our hope. आप हमारी आशा हैं. You are our confidence. आप हमारा विश्वास हैं. You are our future. आप हमारा भविष्य हैं. If you do well, if you stay well, if you stay healthy, India will have all these qualifications. And therefore, my request to you is, please start taking some interest in this sort of thing. No matter whether you're a student of history, geography, criminology, whatever you are studying, have this knowledge of uncommon common sense. Other issue is, I was the head of the department dealing with all these three types of warfare as a head of the prospective planning. We had added two more types of warfare. Of course, chemical, biological, nuclear was there at that time also. But we had added a cyber warfare, information warfare, and psychological warfare. I'm collecting the data all over the world. Many people have died because of the fear. They don't tell the truth. They try to hide the infection till it reach such a stage where the retrieval or coming back is not possible. There's a society of knowledge information, data information. I am the chairman, it is based in Delhi, and we are collecting the data as to who are the type of people who are affected most, what blood group they had, which clan they belong to, what food habits they had, and things of that nature. It will probably give us an indication once we collect the data of the entire world and particular of India, what type of people are more vulnerable, more susceptible to this sort of attack which can take place. Linking it directly with the warfare which I have been dealing with. Sir mentioned about the Bhopal case. In Bhopal, a lot of people had died. But you know one thing? I was based in Delhi that time. I was working at Delhi in the army headquarters. And I had gone to Bhopal to investigate, can such a technology or such mechanism be used by our enemy against our own forces? That was my reason to go there. Those who are working inside the urine carbide complex, they did not suffer much because they were taught by common sense, pick up a wet towel, put it on your mouth and nose, and you will be reasonably safe. But those who are outside the periphery, outside the compound wall, they suffered the most. What does this indicate? A simple mechanism can save your life. A simple mechanism can save your life. And this is my request to my young friends. Other day, just last month, Madam Haridas probably will know, near MIT, there's a place known as Kothru. There's a road crossing known as Chandni Chowk. And a gas-loaded truck had met some accident and the gas leaked there. And immediately, the police control room of Pune started cautioning. Oh my God, what a havoc they created. Fortunately, the leak was arrested. The gas, of course, whatever has gone out, could not be brought back, but created panic. And as very rightly it has been mentioned, some terrorist organization, some rogue, some person who is not accountable, the so-called non-state actors, can use this sort of mechanism. I do not want to know in the localities in Bombay or Pune or in Delhi or in major cities where this can happen, because somebody will get the idea. But we have to be careful. And the worst enemy of ours is a panic. We start getting panicky. A good number of people die because of lack of knowledge and because of the fear of unknown. So my request to you is, don't get panicky about it. The eminent scientists mentioned about it. Today the concept of warfare is changing. पहले हम लोग बोलते थे जल, थल और नभ. The sea, land, and the sky. Today, the warfare or the conflict has emerged into different dimensions. More threatening will be the surface which is below the sea surface. If somebody wants to play the dirty game, carrying a submarine-like objective, if he leaks this sort of gas or any virus into the sea, can you imagine the containment of fish, the seafood, the shrimps, the prawns? Oh my God, it will create a havoc. It will create a havoc we don't even know. That is another part is there. The second, in the space, people are developing the technology to destroy certain chemical plants, nuclear reactors, without getting anywhere close to these. I don't want to scare you, but I want to caution you so that you are aware of that. And that is why, as our eminent coordinator mentioned, I am doing my third PhD. It is not that the PhD will give you knowledge. It does not. It never happens. No PhD anywhere in the world ever gives you knowledge. PhD gives you degree. Knowledge you have to acquire yourself. You have to study. You have to interact. You have to meet the people. You have to understand the consequences. And that is why how you become knowledgeable. Otherwise, you remain a degree holder. So my appeal to our young people who are listening to this one, become knowledgeable, become intelligent, become clever. Other issue is beyond the sea, sky is the space. There's a possibility people can destroy a satellite which is controlling almost all the chemical plants in the world, or they know the location. You tamper with the functioning of the satellite and it will play havoc. It will play havoc. At any given time, throughout the 24 hours, 24/7, there are almost 3,000 aircrafts flying in the air, carrying passenger loads. They are not the war aircraft, but the civil aircraft, cargo aircraft. And you tamper with the space satellite, which is linked to the aviation. Our fear is we don't know how many accidents will take place. So these are the new dimensions that are emerging beyond the coronavirus. Not one round has been fired, not one bullet has been fired. Look at the number of people who have died throughout the world. The most powerful nation in the world, whom we call superpower, has lost over 116,000 people. Not one shot has been fired. Not one shot has been fired. That is the danger of this. And we have to understand. We are affected. We are suffering from it. I've got about 5 minutes left. Just keep, 8 minutes left. There's a watch being kept. The watch has been given by MIT. So I presume it is showing the right time. I presume I take it that way. It belongs to MIT only. So I will not cross the time limit, sir. I showed you. I'll finish 30 seconds before. The point is at issue, this context. In future, we have to be very careful. I'm working for the government or some of the things that without doing anything, is it possible to destroy the crop of a particular country or particular adversary country whose entire dependence is on the agriculture? Agriculture-based economy can be destroyed in no time. You see the COVID invasion which takes place, but you can use some chemical, you can some kind of biological. Some scientists will say, no. You don't know, General. You don't know about it. We know it. Of course, we have eminent scientists with us. I came across a number of people in last 6 months, ever since this topic has come. They say, नहीं, आपको पता नहीं है. I said, मेरे को technology पता नहीं है, but I have a common sense. And that is what I am using. You can destroy the crop of that nation. And once you destroy the crop, it will require 6 crop patterns. 6 crop patterns. BT cotton syndrome. People are committing suicide. This is another type of warfare connected to biological warfare. You can infect the cattle. Look at the number of children or the people across the world who are using milk. And if you infect the cattle, and my God, and that milk becomes the milk powder and reaches you in a tin box with a beautiful emblem or a label, and you give it to your child, we don't know what can happen. We don't know what can happen. And somebody must be thinking on the line. Whenever I go to Delhi, when I come across, there is a chikungunya fever. Chikungunya. So I asked a few doctor friend of mine why it is known as chikungunya. And some of them, they told me that during the monsoon season, these chicken, what we call it, they eat the insects. And those who eat those particular chicken peas, they suffer from this. Now, if you explain this to somebody, oh, see, you are a bloody fool. You don't know what you're talking. The poultry people will get against you. This man doesn't know what happened. But it can happen. You can infect the goats. This bat virus, I had been to Wuhan in 1993-94 twice, not to learn the biological warfare. I had gone for some other work when I used to go to China to negotiate on these boundary issues. And we used to visit. We went to Chengdu, we went to Guangzhou, other number of places, and Wuhan was one of them. Of course, they did not take us to this complex where the biological weapons, chemical weapon laboratory was there. But today, there are 74 nations in the world, 74. Some of them are very powerful nations who are conducting the research on this issue. So therefore, these are the dangers can come. But as rightly our first eminent speaker said, कि जान है तो जहान है. Just because of danger, because there is a fear, should we stop living? I don't think so. I don't think so. We must live. We must be careful. We must be careful enough. Because see, the government has told us, maintain social distancing, put on mask, wash your hand, simple things. If we abide by those, let me assure you, 73% of people will not get affected because of this coronavirus. 73 people. And many of them who are suffering today are either the old age or the younger generation. So there is a message for us, my young friends. Please be careful when you are traveling, when you are going to some hotels, when you are going to the Dwar, when you are dancing at night. Please be very careful. क्योंकि जान है तो जहान है, और अगर जहान नहीं हुआ तो जान लेके आप कहाँ जाएंगे खाली? So both are combined to each other. I think I'll close with this, with my last advice to you. Somebody has said and that is very applicable to our Indian generation. है हमें अगर प्यार तो हरदम ये कहना चाहिए, if we love our country, India, है हमें अगर प्यार तो हरदम ये कहना चाहिए, मैं रहूं या ना रहूं, भारत ये रहना चाहिए. Corona or no corona, India will remain, the young generation will remain. मैं रहूं या ना रहूं, भारत ये रहना चाहिए. शत्रु से कह दो जरा, whether it is China, whether it is anybody else, whether he is thinking of launching another attack on us. And more than the external enemy, the enemy within India, which is more dangerous. शत्रु से कह दो जरा, सीमा में रहना सीख ले, ये मेरा भारत अमर है, ये सत्य सहना सीख ले. और राष्ट्र की शक्ति को, both the eminent speaker has given an indication of that. Both have given the indication. राष्ट्र की इस शक्ति को बढ़कर दिखाना चाहिए. मैं रहूं या ना रहूं, भारत ये रहना चाहिए. And therefore, MIT has taken this initiative to keep you informed, to keep you aware, expose you to another dimension of the human life. It has nothing to do with the warfare, but it is with the survival of the humankind. What is warfare? It is the threat to the humankind. And if you know the art of survival, then you don't have to go and attend the lesson on art of living. Survival is very important. So I wish you all the best. I thank you all and thank the organizer, sir, for giving me the chance. I'm still 1 minute, 48 seconds ahead of the time which has been given to me. But thank you so much. We are now open to questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Honorable Lieutenant General Dr. GB Sekatkarji. Thank you very much for your very, very important thoughts on this important topic. Yes, now it is time for questions and answers, and I have already, my team members have requested everyone in the audience to post the messages to me, Gautam Bapat, in the Q&A section only. These questions will be accepted. I hope I hope Sri Ram Athavliji is also there with us, because I could not see him on the screen. Sir,
Yes, I am here.
on your camera?
Yes, I am here.
Yeah, great. So let us start with the questions. I have, believe me, sir, many questions. So let's try and keep our answers short so that I'll be able to take many questions. So the first question comes to Dr. Velumaniji, and the question is from Sagar Udasin, and he asks, what is your thought when the films showing how to cook meth and LSD and how to kill someone by UV light and these kind of things are shown on places like Netflix and OTT platforms? What is your opinion about such things? Over to you, sir.
Thank you. And I must compliment Dr. DB Sekatkar. I've not heard him, seen him before the Galvan Valley incursions. And from last 2-3 days, I have been hearing utter clarity in his communication. I am also wondering why I could not do 3 PhDs. Having said that, let me answer to the question specific. Movies are movies. Movies are made you to imagine what is possible, and make you to imagine what is not possible also is possible, because that is what gets the money. And many people love to see it. Horror movies, people love to see it. So it is all only for that 2 or 3 hours. You are not supposed to carry that for too long. In fact, if you take a child who will remember it for too long, it will affect his mental health. So it is part of life, part of society, part of entertainment, part of money making. We cannot say it is wrong. Having said that, suno sabki, mano apni, and you must listen to your mind. The world is supposed to be peaceful until somebody is make it unpeaceful. And as human being, all of us must know how to defend, like how Dr. Sekatkar said. If you know how to defend, you have no threat. And there can be always a threat which you did not even know or imagine. Jana hai to jana hai. Dar ke kya marna hai.
Thank you very much. The next question is coming to Lieutenant General Dr. DB Sekatkarji. So the next question is to you. And question is, how exactly is government is going to improve the medical infrastructure when economy is fluctuating? Also, India has lot many poor people on streets. So how government is planning to reaching out to all of them? Over to you, sir.
I can make a guess. Even the government was shocked. Till 21st of March 2020, many people in the government, may it be central government or state government, did not take this COVID seriously. And the typical reply was, time aayega to hum dekh lenge. And the time came on 22nd when the Prime Minister was forced to announce the national lockdown to save the lives of people. I was lucky to reach Pune that day at night at 11 o'clock. Otherwise, I would have been stuck up in Delhi itself. Government has taken a tremendous amount of efforts. Also, the armed forces has come in a big way. The armed forces medical college, the army hospital throughout the country, they are helping establishing the special hospital beds and the facility in remote areas particularly. They are doing it. But my firm belief is, instead of depending on the medical aid after getting the attack, it is better to prevent yourself from being attacked. And for that, if we observe normal precautions, we can save ourselves. What people do, they don't take seriously. I mean, scientist was mentioning about it. Ramathole has also mentioned. Government is doing its bit, but then they cannot construct the hospital overnight. They can construct a tented beds for them. But where are the hospitals? Did you ever thought in my life, ever, that the 5-star hotels will be converted into a hospital? The beds will be constructed in that way. Even the Taj Mansingh Hotel in Delhi has become a hospital because we never anticipated. We do not carry out anticipated threat analysis, which is part of the national government scheme. Anticipatory threat analysis and predictability threat analysis. But we have now become wiser, and hopefully, I'm sure, we are arresting the trend and we are in a reasonable position. After all, we are not the country who's got the largest number of deaths. Doesn't mean maybe there is something, God is kind to us, but we are doing a lot of work. Government is doing a lot of work on that.
True. Thank you. So thank you very much for that quick answer. The next question is coming for Ramathole, and it is coming from Soumya Tiburwal. And she is asking, aside from the fact that we can learn from the past, which tragedies have happened and how we can prevent from these kind of accidental leaks or accidental damages from being happening?
I presume she's referring to the chemical accidents which are happening in the industry. There have been a lot of measures which have been instituted post Bhopal. Some laws have been instituted. Regulations have been issued to industry on how more safety mechanisms should be built in, more redundancies should be built in processes so that such kind of accidents won't happen. But you see, at the end of the day, any amount of regulation, any amount of laws, acts, they're on paper unless the implementation and enforcement is correctly done. If we are not able to enforce a law, if we are not able to follow a regulation on ground, then the whole idea is lost. And what is happening today is that in spite of some of the best SOPs and regulations in the world that India has, and I can assure you that because I have seen a number of regulations and CBRN related issues in a number of countries, I find that implementation and its enforcement, oversight on ground is lacking. Whether it is because of carelessness, whether it is because of corruption, whether it is because of just bravado at times, that nothing is going to go wrong in my place, is all actually contributing to such. I think we need to pay more attention.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for that answer. The next question is again coming to you. Well, I should already start apologizing because I have some 20 questions in pending and precisely 10 minutes in hand. So there is no way I can take them all. So I apologize in advance. So next question is coming to you again, sir, Attorney sir, and it is coming from Muthar San M. And the question is, how do you see our dependency on nuclear power plants?
Dependency on nuclear power plants.
Yeah.
Well, nuclear power is a very, very important aspect of power in the country today, not only in our country, but all over the world. And that is an alternate power source other than the coal to reduce your carbon footprint. And therefore, I feel that nuclear power is here to stay. Our dependency is not going to stop. Our dependency is not going to be the same. Our dependency is only going to increase.
Oh.
And we have.
So that's not a very good news, yeah.
No, why not? Why not? I can assure you that our nuclear power plants are one of the most secure in the world. And therefore, the amount of power which a small.
But a quick sub question about the nuclear waste that it produces. Your comments on that?
Yes, nuclear waste which is produced has got a very sequential method of correction and disposal, and which is laid down. It is monitored by the IAEA. Regulations have been laid down on that. BARC has developed its own program on how to, dispose of or handle nuclear waste. I'm sure Dr. Velumani would be more qualified to answer that particular question because I'm not a nuclear scientist per se. But yes, suffice it to say, we have very structured methods of addressing nuclear waste.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for that answer. And next question is coming for Dr. Velumani ji. Well, Dr. Velumani, from this question, I can see that the attendees are a little scared because this question gives me that feeling at least, because this question comes from Mr. Ravi Patel, and who asks, what do we do if the biological threat or chemical or virus, whatever is used, is delivered into a city's lake? So city's water body, if it is infected or if anything happens like that, what do we do? Over to you, Dr. Velumani.
Yeah, I think I will dwell 25 seconds on the previous question on nuclear. There have been a couple of accidents in this last 50 years. Very small, very few. Nuclear is a long way to go. We have learned a lot of lessons. We will continue to learn lessons. Nuclear will be the cheapest of all the power resources. We will certainly be using it in the long run, and all other things will not be really competing with that. Coming to this question, it could be air, it could be water, it could be in any form. It's very difficult to imagine how dangerous is that warfare. And if it is one lake, it will be one particular town or so. But if it happens in rivers, it happens in even the ocean. Lot of things are possible, but I must tell you, don't imagine the worst and live your life sleepless forever. आएगा तो देखा जाएगा, थोड़ा पढ़ाई करते ही जाइएगा, मोटा मोटी जो भी आता है आपको जानकारी रहेगा, आप जरूर बच जाएंगे. अगर दुनिया पूरा जाना है तो आप भी खुशी से चली जाइएगा. There is nothing wrong. All men born on this earth is to die. Trust me, death is nature. Only thing is we should not undergo a pain and a premature death. That is what probably is the reason we look for every solution. I certainly have no answer for that. First time in my lifetime of 60 years, I am sitting in one place for last 100 days, one bathroom, one soap, one shampoo. This had never happened in my life. And I must tell you, in these last 60 days, I have learned more than what I learned in last 60 years. Young guys who are sitting and listening must keep learning, reading. That will give some confidence and some solution if it is needed.
Right. So thank you very much for that answer. The next question is coming to Lieutenant General, sir. And sir, the question to you is by Tanvi Murumkar, and she asks, is psychological warfare and bio warfare are interrelated? Are they happening because they are more cost effective as compared to traditional war?
At the moment, it will be difficult to say they are interrelated. But what the world has now gone through this experience, those who want to make a quick buck or use this in a different form, you create a fear psychosis. Just now, the eminent scientist mentioned what he has learned in the last 60 days. Probably he did not learn in 60 years. Based on these, somebody will get an idea. Because the fear psychosis is the worst psychosis or the mental torture to humankind. Because of fear, you will not even go out of your room. 60% people, they suffer the bone injuries by slipping down in the bathroom throughout the world. Is the data available? Does it mean we stop going? And they are mostly the senior citizens. But there is a simple way of doing the things. When you get up suddenly and you have urge to go to bathroom, just wait for 2 minutes, shake your hands and leg, your blood circulation start, and you go. Common sense, simple common sense. So this is the way, but I don't think it is linked at the moment. But we cannot rule out the possibility. With the permission of the Pope Chancellor, I myself shaken hand with the death 4 times in my life. Twice in the enemy land, in the enemy territory, once having been kept by the enemy country, and once when I was about to be drowned in my own country. Unless you are destined for that dirty day, nothing will happen to you. Nothing will happen to you. I am not doing the Andhavishwasi or something of the sort. Your destiny is decided in the beginning. Don't get unduly concerned, unduly worried. Don't stop or don't get created panic and you stop living a normal life. That is not the aim. That is not the aim. And even the aim of this seminar is, or webinar is, to make you aware. Awareness is the biggest shield given to the human being by the nature to protect himself or herself. So this is what the MIT is doing, is to make you more aware, more knowledgeable. I hope it will satisfy you.
Right. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much for that answer. Well, I'm facing little network challenge. I hope you all can hear me. Can somebody please confirm?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, great. Thank you. So let's quickly move on.
Professor Bapat, Professor Ramji would like to add his comments for the earlier question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Over to you. Yeah.
Yes. Can we just have that question quickly again?
Yeah, the question was if is the psychological warfare and bio warfare are interrelated, and are they happening because it is cost effective as compared to the traditional war?
Got it. I must state here, General Shekatkar has already given a brief outline as to how psychological and biological warfare can be related. But let me tell you, all chemical, biological, radiological, even nuclear warfare is based on psychological warfare. The very concept of deterrence by use of such weapon or the threat of use of such weapons is psychological warfare. So therefore, if I say propagate that, look, I am going to use a biological weapon, you imagine the chaos and panic and paranoia in public which it will create. A small issues, like I'll give you an example. When swine flu happened in Pune, in the first 2 days itself, all the vaccines from the shelf had vanished. People had gone there कि यार मेरे को भी दे दो, क्या पता कल शुरू हो जाए मेरा swine flu. So these are the people who are worried well, who are actually falling prey to the psychological aspect or psychological pressure of this kind of a threat which is emanating. Threat has not yet manifested in them, but there is a psychological pressure on them. And that is why I think these issues are very, very closely connected. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your inputs. with this, we have reached the end of this particular session, but we haven't ended it yet. There are a couple of important aspects of this session still left, and one of which is now the passing of resolution. I request.
Can I just add?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I can see there are a whole lot of other questions which have been posted, which have not got answered, and you have a bank of questions with you now.
So my time is coming to an end.
I think you can mail them to us respectively so that we can answer them to satisfy the curiosity of the people who are asking.
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And now, as Atul requested, if anyone is still interested to go further and finding out the answers, you can definitely reach out to them. And I think he has shared his details in the chat box. Let me please allow me to move ahead. And now it's time for passing the resolution of this session. As you can see the resolution on the screen, let me read it for you. We, the participants at the International Conference on Eradication of Biological and Chemical Weapons, appeal to the United Nations Secretary General to eradicate all the possibilities of biological and chemical warfare by 2021, which is the 75th year of the foundation of the United Nations. And I now request my technical team to kindly start the polling process. You will see the polling activated on your screens. Even if you are on mobile or you are on laptop, please vote. It's just 1 minute's time. I hope you all could see it. You have to click on yes if you support this resolution, and then click on submit, or click on no if you do not